Comrades and friends, welcome to the program Global Weekly News, serial number 215, 215. First item, WFTO condemns the arrest of Evo Morales. The WFTO, World Federation of Trade Unions, condemns the issuing of an arrest warrant for the country's former president Evo Morales, Bolivia, who is being investigated for armed uprising against the state, among other things. These decisions follow the recent protests that were backed by Morales and took place last June by farmers and truckers against an economic crisis, rising living costs, and the conservative austerity plans of the government. Evo Morales has been South American country Bolivia's first indigenous president and one of the longest serving leaders of Latin America. Having served the Bolivia for 3 terms, WFTU denounces the prosecution of Evo Morales and strongly condemns any measure to silence the people's demand and struggles against misery and exploitation. WFTU joins its voice with the people of Bolivia who are fighting against oppression and deep social and economic inequalities and fully supports their just demand for the satisfaction of their contemporary needs. Well, comrades, item number 2, mass funeral held in Gaza. The victims were among the 308 people from the same clan means same family, who were massacred in Israeli airstrikes on a residential block in Gaza City in November 2023. On 4th August, thousands of Palestinians gathered in Sabra neighborhood of Gaza City to bid farewell to 112 members of their two families before they were finally laid to rest, almost 3 years after their tragic deaths. This includes 40 children, 38 women, and 7 people with disabilities. The massacre resulted in the killing of at least 308 people. However, only 112 bodies and remains of all the victims were retrieved after 136 hours of digging through the wreckage. The Palestinian Civil Defense said that its teams were unable to find 157 bodies still missing under the rubble, with some remains expected to have fused with concrete and steel or vanished under the intense pressure of the explosions. The scene of crowds bidding farewell to members of the same family at a joint funeral has become familiar to Palestinians in both Gaza and the occupied West Bank over the last few decades. The international community has stood idle while Israel continues its atrocities. It's a great pity, comrade. It's a great tragedy in Palestine of Gaza. Item number 3, Israel takes over Kalandia refugee camp. Israeli forces launched Israeli forces launched a large-scale military operation in Kalandia refugee camp north of occupied East Jerusalem in the early hours of 5th August. The operation included a curfew, a wave of arrests, physical assaults against several people, including journalists, the demolition of properties, and preventing the residents from performing dawn prayers, early morning prayers in all mosques across the camp. The Israeli military coordinator claimed that the operation aims to prevent terrorist actors, terrorist infrastructure, and the phenomenon of weapons possession and trafficking, which poses a threat to the security of the entire region. Israeli forces were ordered to follow the same strategies applied to northern West Bank refugee camps such as Jenin, Tulkam, and Nor Shams. no SAMs, Kalandi's operation. For Palestinians, the charges are baseless during Kalandi's operation. Analysts and human rights groups consider Israeli order part of a broader plan to displace Palestinians from their homes, reflecting Israel's long-standing policy of ethnic cleansing. UN office reported that over 37,000 Palestinians were displaced throughout 2025 as a result of operations carried out by Israeli army in refugee camps in the northern West Bank. Comrades and friends, item number 4. Why there's a shift towards right in Latin America? Very good, very important question. Fujimori in Peru, Cast in Chile, Paz in Bolivia, Javier Milei in Argentina, Noba in Ecuador, Pena in Paraguay, and soon Esprilla in Colombia are all the far-right presidents in South America. These figures are all part of an ideological and political bloc linked to United States geopolitical strategy and its neoliberal political agenda for Latin America. Venezuela, following the 3rd January attack, is deeply influenced by the United States. Only Uruguay and Brazil remain on the progressive side, and that could change depending on the upcoming elections in Brazil on 4th October. Lula da Silva, the incumbent progressive president of Brazil, is contesting 4th time for the president. Some years before, there was left wave in South America, but now it is vanishing. Some left candidates lost the elections by narrow margins. In some countries, the elected progressive governments could not retain the confidence of the people due to poor performance. It is undeniable that a large part of these victories of the rightist forces have resulted from open support from the United States government. Trump himself has taken it upon himself to threaten, intimidate, and even openly blackmail Latin American citizens by warning that he would withdraw support from the people if the candidates he was backing did not win. Israel has stepped in as a political actor in the region through fake news. Item number 5, comrades. Opposition to a proposed nuclear power plant in Kenya, Africa. The controversy centers on the government's plan to construct what officials describe as Kenya's first commercial nuclear power plant on the shores of Lake Victoria. The proposal has triggered months of resistance from local communities who argue that the government has failed to conduct meaningful public participation discussions and has not adequately addressed concerns over environmental safety and the potential impact on livelihoods dependent on Lake Victoria. The Friends of Shia anti-nuclear plant said at least 18 community members have been arrested following demonstrations held in May 2026 against the proposed nuclear facility. On 31st July, the Friends Forum submitted an access to information request seeking the disclosure of environmental assessments, seismic studies, resettlement plans, and other project documents. But these were not made publicly available. This violates both the Access to Information Act and the Article 35 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Lake Victoria supports hundreds of thousands of fishing households and is a vital freshwater resource shared by Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Any major industrial development around the lake requires extensive regional consultation because of its potential to transboundary implications. Lake Victoria is under severe ecological stress already. Declining fish stocks, pollution from gold mining in the neighborhood area have pushed the lake to the brink. The Communist Party Marxist Kenya also condemned the government's handling of the protests, including the alleged killing of one protester. Comrades and friends, sixth item, Palantir, a US tech company, avoid taxes in Europe. Tech company Palantir has become widely known for the mischievous values supported by its founders and their stated support for Israel throughout the genocide in Gaza. A new report has been launched by the European Federation of Public Services Unions and the Center for International Corporate Tax Accountability and Research. The report identifies an estimated $1.38 crore tax gap between what Palantir pays in Europe and what they would have paid if they did not shift their profits to the United States. Palantir is benefiting significantly from protections the second Trump administration has built for US based big tech companies. Palantir paid nothing in federal income tax in 2025, even though it should have paid $34.8 crore at the standard corporate rate. Item number 7, 1,500 killed as the Ebola outbreak swells into largest ever in Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. The speed of the spread is 8.5 times faster than the world's largest known Ebola outbreak that started in West Africa in 2014, infecting 28,600 people and killing 11,325. The outbreak has killed about 1,587 people by July 30, about 44% of the infected people. Ebola was declared over in 2016, but now it has spread to 10 countries, including the US and Italy. The 567 new cases and 296 deaths in the latest full week marked the highest weekly number recorded since the outbreak. Neighboring Uganda, which had also announced the outbreak on 15th May, had officially announced its end on 28th July. Item number 8, comrades. El Nino to increase hunger crisis in Africa. Droughts and floods threaten crop failures and water shortages in Africa, home to almost half of the world's hungry population last year. The strongest El Nino in 75 years, brewing in the Pacific Ocean, casts a dark shadow over Africa as crop failures, water shortages, and other disasters loom over the continent that is home to 30.9 crore of the 65.5 crore who suffered hunger globally last year. The planet, the entire planet is already warming due to greenhouse gas emissions, due to rise in surface water temperature in the Pacific Ocean, maybe to the tune of 3.5 degrees centigrade. El Nino disrupts atmospheric circulation, causing droughts, floods, and extreme temperatures worldwide. The El Nino will peak between 2026 November and 2027 February with a 90% probability that it will develop into what has been termed a Super El Nino. The 26-27 El Nino event is projected to be the strongest since 1950. It is an imminent risk that demands immediate preparation. The worst impact is expected in Eastern Africa. Poor harvests are expected in Sudan, South Sudan, and parts of Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Uganda. Food and Agricultural Organization, along with the World Food Program of the United Nations, issued a joint anticipatory action appeal seeking $20.2 crore to protect 88 lakh people across 22 countries, including 12 in Africa. The World Food Program reported a 45% cut in US funding from 24 to 25. Yes, comrades and friends, there are two more items. Item number 9. Socialist Party of Malaysia condemns persecution of its leaders. Dr. Jayakumar Devaraj, chairman of the Socialist Party of Malaysia, and two other leaders and a farmer of the party have been booked for obstructing public servants in the discharge of their duties and are set to be tried in a court. The 2-year-old case is related to a Socialist Party-led movement against the illegal eviction of farmers in Kantal in Malaysia's northwestern state of Perak in September 2023. The party has maintained that the act of eviction was illegal, as farmers had every right to farm their land as they had been doing for over 7 decades. Despite the protests and ignoring a stay by the High Court, authorities went ahead and destroyed the standing crop of several farmers and appropriated their land. If convicted as charged, Jayakumar and the 3 others can be sentenced to up to 2 years in jail or fined up to $2,500 or both. The party issued a statement demanding immediate withdrawal of government's persecution notice. Lastly, comrades, Ghana welcomes US Army, again Africa. As Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, the Sahel Alliance countries nationalize billions in gold wealth and post record economic growth, the neighboring country, Ghana, hosts the US military. General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana said that the Sahel's patriotic revolution is a critical first step toward African liberation, and why real transformation demands something much more, resettling the world entirely at the United Nations, the IMF, World Bank, and WTO. While Burkina Faso's Ibrahim Traore has inspired the global south and Ghana's John Mahama has brought global attention to reparations at the UN, General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana argues that the true revolutions are led by the working class, not by politicians. And from the assassination of Patrice Lumumba to present-day terrorism targeting the Sahel states, Western intelligence agencies have a long history of destabilizing Africa's liberation movements. Thank you, comrades. Lal Salam. See you next week.